all incredibly happy for you. Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is a man that is considered the greatest head coach in the history of the NFL, and we believe he should be considered the greatest general manager in the history of the NFL as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
Coach, got a team. Navy's got a team.
Hey, 4-0, going to Air Force. Big game this weekend.
Yeah,
big game.
I know last week you wanted to give them a shout out. We weren't able to get it in there. That's 100% on me. Now we're getting a chance. Oh yeah, it is. It is on me. But this Navy team might do it. Hey, congrats to the midshipmen out there.
Dominating.
And they're talking Army-Navy this year might be like the biggest.
Well, now they're in the same conference, so they could actually play the Army-Navy game, and then if they're both at the top of the conference now, can also play the week after that for the conference title too.
Oh, we love America. God bless America.
Yeah.
God bless America. Coach, let's talk about, we can either stay with the Commanders and Jaden Daniels' success, which we think is pretty pivotal with the run game's also success, or we can move to the Baltimore Ravens being back and their run game being the reason why. Either one you want to kind of chat about, I would love to hear, but this Ravens team, I think, is now playing like the team everybody thought they were going to into this season. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think they definitely found their stride here the last couple of weeks. Coming off of last year's game with the Chiefs, not running the ball enough, running game, getting established. It's so much easier to do that when you play from ahead and getting off to a good start like they did last night. And, of course, Derrick Henry, once he gets rolling, he's tough to stop. I think a little bit of Buffalo's situation got exposed last night, just their overall size and physicality. Trying to play nickel the whole way or most of the way, it's just tough against a big physical team like Baltimore. And as I've said before, Baltimore puts a lot of pressure on you because they're probably the biggest and most physical offensive line running team that there is, but they're also very, very fast with obviously Jackson, Zay Flowers, Aguilar. The receivers are very fast. So if you put too much size and not enough speed out there, you got problems. And if you put too much speed and not enough size out there, you got problems too. And Hill was a big signing for him, and last week or whatever it was, 2 weeks ago. And he certainly is a great dimension to add along with Henry.
Okay, so let's talk about their run game a little bit more. Patrick Ricard, fullback, is seemingly the talk of the town for a lot of these highlights. All the long runs, he is bodying somebody. We've obviously been a big fan of his for multiple years because he's former D lineman, 280 pounds, 290 pounds. He's in there to just clear and wreck shop, but he can also catch the ball. Guy's pretty athletic, loves his job. That type of offense, the need of a good fullback is obviously there. What are your thoughts on Patrick Ricard? I mean, he just takes up two blockers right there in the hole for Derrick Henry. And why did anybody allow Derrick Henry and Patrick Ricard to be in the same backfield? That seems to be cheating, Coach.
Well, obviously there's no weight limit on that. So, Richard was he was a key guy, and when we played them, we treated him as the point of attack. And the hard thing about that is he's at the point of attack, but it isn't always where he lines up. Now, when he lines up in the backfield, he obviously can go either way. But when they line him up in the wing or in kind of that offset fullback position, he can be at the point of attack, or he can come back across the ball in their counter plays. And so it's sort of hard to set your defense because you don't know where he's going to be. He builds that extra gap, and obviously he's a big guy when he gets matched up on the linebackers, which is usually who he's blocking. And so that extra gap that gets created in those two back sets is tough. You don't know where it's going to be. So defensively, we always try to get a big body at the point of attack where he was. And sometimes you didn't know that till after the snap. So our linebackers would, if you will, like rotate into those off tackle holes to try to match, because most of the runs come behind him. And then every once in a while, Jackson will keep it and go the other way. You need somebody to take care of him on the backside. But, Richard's the point of attack blocker. And so that's a big problem. But if you start loading up too much there, you have those explosive players in the back end that can get you, or you have no pass rush against Lamar because you set a bunch of big slow guys in there trying to stop the run. And then he kills you with scrambles and sweeps and that kind of thing. So they're really a tough team to match up against.
Yeah, and they got Kyle Van Noy buzzing on the defensive side. Yeah. 6 sacks in 3 games, including a strip sack on a little trickery last night with Josh Allen. What a stud Van Noy is, Coach. What an absolute stud still in 2024, crushing right now.
Yeah, Kyle's a real instinctive player. He's a little bit of a combination of defensive end, outside linebacker, could also play a little bit inside linebacker, but he's very aware, instinctive, and crafty out there, similar to Ninkovich, who we had for a long time, where they're not just an elite edge rusher, but they know how to rush. They're really good on games, really instinctive, could drop into coverage, and can do a lot of things, give you a lot of versatility on defense. And so Kyle's got a ton of experience. He's a really smart guy. It's hard to fool him on those kind of misdirection plays, bootlegs, reverses, things like that. He really does a good job of sniffing those out.
He'll be joining us in about an hour. I can't wait to talk to him and let him know that you said those things. I'm sure that'll make him feel very good on this Glorious Overreaction Monday. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, I wanted to pivot to Minnesota. They went into Lambeau and they were up 28-7 at half. And then they came away with a victory, but it was close. They only scored 3 points in the second half. Like, what was your philosophy on playing with a lead, being up ahead so much early? Like, how do you come out in the second half and still kind of keep your foot on the gas, but not blow it and all of a sudden zero blitz and let them back in the game?
Yeah, that's as you know, that's kind of human nature, AJ. It's a tough one. When things are going good, you tend to ease up a little bit, and I think we've seen that a number of times this year already. Teams that have 3-score leads, and then whether the opponent comes back and catches them or doesn't catch them, but they get it back to a 1-score game like Green Bay did. So there's definitely a mentality, and sometimes, look, if you're down 28, whatever it is, you don't keep doing the same thing. You make some adjustments, and then if you're on the other side of the ball, in this case defensively, you've got to recognize what adjustments they're making based on the score, and then shift away from that game plan, because the game plan you were using when it was a competitive game isn't really appropriate anymore. So I think, that's something obviously that Minnesota's going to have to take a look at, but also just not playing from ahead. They had, I think, 16 sacks going into the game, and 15 of the 16 sacks were with the lead. Defensively, when you can tee off and rush the passer, and that's where you get a lot of those negative plays, strip sacks, and tip balls and things like that, and the DBs can break on the ball and so forth. So I think you never want to be behind, but at some point they're going to have to play from behind or play from a competitive situation. And we'll see how well they do on that. But playing from ahead is certainly the preferable way to play. And a lot of these teams that are getting off to a fast start, like Tampa did yesterday against the Eagles, they just kind of cruise through the whole game.
Yeah, to your point there, first quarter this season, the Minnesota Vikings have scored 38 points and their opponents have scored 3 points. That's plus 35 in the first half. So to your point about having to maybe fend off something as you go through the season, they haven't experienced that. It's actually like historic, I think, what they're doing right now in the first quarter, especially with what the rest of the NFL is seemingly doing on the offensive side of things. Sam Darnold's crushing it, which leads to this question here from Connor.
Yeah, Coach, as a GM, when you look at the Sam Darnold situation, obviously he's only on a 1-year contract, so after this year he'll be a free agent. But for Minnesota, without really knowing what J.J. McCarthy is, do you think that they can just kind of say, okay, we can let Sam Darnold walk? Because what if they do continue to win the division, possibly have a run in the playoffs? Do you think that kind of changes the GM's thoughts when it comes to the situation and plan for J.J.? And do you think that they actually might stick with Darnold going forward? Or no matter what, we took J.J. in the first round, he's still the quarterback of the future?
Well, I think it would definitely change things if that were to happen. That's what happened with Brady. That's what happened with Kurt Warner and Trent Green. When your quarterback takes you to Super Bowl championship, what else you want him to do? That's a pretty big commitment to make. So, look, I don't know all the details. Obviously, that's certainly an internal decision, and they've done an excellent job of putting that team together. And having 2 quarterbacks is a lot better than having none. We all know that. So, Sam is playing great, and he's had really been pretty good everywhere except the Jets. Everybody that's had him has liked him, and I've talked to coaches that have really been complimentary of not only his skills, but his work ethic, his attitude, great teammate, and all that. So I don't really know what happened at the Jets, but he's doing what a lot of people thought he would do. And I'm talking about the last few years that have been with him. And so it's a great opportunity for him, and he's taken advantage of it, just like Baker Mayfield did, and Geno Smith, guys like that. Like these guys on their kind of second or third time around have really shown that they're quality quarterbacks in the National Football League.
And we're talking about tonight and Geno Smith here in a little bit, obviously. And Baker and that Buccaneers team is awesome. Can I ask you about the situation, Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield, where basically Baker Mayfield, I don't know if he meant to do this, but it certainly came across as, it was a lot stressful times whenever Tom was in the building. I think, guys, I'm a little bit different than that. It's not as uptight, maybe, is seemingly what he said. And I don't know if he meant to take a shot at Tom. Tom kind of, I think, had to respond, obviously, because of how big of a deal it came. Andy was calling the game. He said, I thought it was stressful when you don't win a Super Bowl. And this isn't a daycare. We're here to work. It was basically kind of what he said. That mentality, has he always been that way? Because a lot of people are like, well, that's the Patriot way. That's what happens whenever Belichick's your coach. And people point out about how some of your assistant coaches go to another place. And everybody talks about how it doesn't work here. That's not how this is going to go. You and Tom, like a perfect match for that type of culture. And why do you think, other people, I don't want to say view it as differently, but they do view it as differently than seemingly everywhere else?
Well, I do think Tom and I were a good match there. I think that, Tom was one of those players that, Tom could have fun and he could, pull pranks and make fun of people and be made fun of and all that. But when it was time for business, he was all business, whether that was in the meeting room, we'll walk through on the field. There was nothing more important to him than everything being done right, not just his job, but the players around him, the proper timing, the proper alignments, and so forth. And anybody that played with Tom, I think, would support that. Julian, Rob, Troy Brown, you name it. So, and that's kind of the way I was. And people say, well, we didn't have fun. Let me tell you something. Winning 6 Super Bowl championships was fun. Going to 9 Super Bowls was fun. Winning those AFC championship games, that was fun.
Yeah.
The fun was really the winning, and I certainly understand where Tom's coming from. Honestly, I think there's a lot more stress when you're not winning. Winning's hard. It's very hard in the National Football League, and I think you got to put a lot into it. And it's a very fine line between winning and not winning, especially when you get to the final week or two of the season. So. Look, in the end, I think both those guys have a lot of respect for each other. I don't think either one of them really is malicious. Look, Baker's his own person. Tom's his own person. They're both very successful. Nobody's more successful than Brady. I don't know how anybody could question anything Tom's done. He's probably the greatest player of all time and certainly had the most success of any NFL player. So let's leave it at that. But look, winning's hard, and if you want to put a lot into winning and you're satisfied with the results of winning, then look, you had the interview with Coach Saban, right? And that was kind of the same thing. It's like, yeah, I enjoyed it the night after the national championship. I was back on the road recruiting the next day, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of what it is. If you want to keep winning, you got to keep working, or the competition will catch up to you.
Yeah, it takes what it takes, I think, is always what is said there. And I don't think Baker knew that it was going to be taken the way it was taken whenever he said it. I think he was just trying to describe a different thing. And Tom handled it, obviously. Baker ended up winning the LFG award after the game.
Nice.
So Tom gives an award each game. Who won it? Baker won it. They had a conversation live. It was like an interview. Obviously, to your point, they have a lot of respect for each other. 2 different people, individual people. And I think Buccaneers fans, certainly if Baker's able to continue to do what he's doing, love them both. I love just hearing that type of shit, though, because like every building is its own operation. And then, but everybody was talking about the Patriot way.
Yeah.
Like every building. I don't know if you guys were talking about how every other building was operating, but I know every other building. That's a massive compliment, obviously, and it worked. It worked. Now, there's another team trying to chase your guys' dynastic greatness. They're going through some stuff right now. Tone has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach, before the season, Chiefs obviously going for their 3rd title in 3 years, and we talked about how they were bringing in Hollywood Brown. They have Rashee Rice. They drafted Xavier Worthy. They have Pacheco. Like they could get back to the offense that they were a few years ago, but now they've lost Hollywood Brown. They've lost Rashee Rice. They lost Pacheco, so it's just Mahomes and pretty much Kelsey again. Do you see them reverting back to kind of how they played last year, where it was defense and taking care of the football? And is there any team Is it if they have Mahomes, they have Kelsey, they have Andy, they're going to be okay?
Well, I don't think you're okay because you have three people. It takes a lot more than that to win a championship. But that's a good place to start. Look, I think that it sounds like they'll get Pacheco back. Rice obviously is a big loss. I mean, that's a kid who really came into his own. Worthy's an explosive player, but I don't know if he can give him what Rice gave him. But I think that they're going to have to find their way to win, and they've done a great job of that. They've won in the kicking game. They've won on offense. They've won on defense. And they're just going to have to – and they've done a good job of that in their last, I don't know how many game winning streak they have, 10 games, whatever it is. They've won a lot of close games, and they've made stops. They've made field goal kicks. They drove the ball down and beat the 49ers with a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So it seems like they find a way to do whatever they need to do to win, which is the mark of a good team. And everybody's capable of stepping up. Certainly, they have to be looking at it saying, "This is going to be tough. We got a lot of work to do." We'll see what happens as the season goes on. As you get into October and maybe there are potential trades out there. They certainly have done a good job with their salary cap management. They have cap space. They have money. This is not a team that's going to fall apart from a cap standpoint anytime soon. They're well positioned to sustain their, I would say, keep the majority of the players that they want to keep. And so maybe that opens up an opportunity for them later on in the league. Maybe it doesn't, but we'll see.
They've been active.
I wouldn't count them out just yet.
Yeah, they've been active the last 2 years at trade deadline. Who knows if they will once again, but they're in the middle of it. They know it. Everybody, all systems go. They have yet to be happy after a win, and they're 4-0. So that's Chiefs football in a nutshell.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, in a nutshell. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, the Philadelphia Eagles obviously get tons of attention paid to them. We know how passionate their fans are, how much they care. I guess what can you do in the moment? Like, what can Nick Sirianni and this team do to kind of get back on track? It seems like things just are not going in the right direction. There's still plenty of time, but how do you do that as a head coach?
Well, first of all, I think the bye week probably is a good time for these guys. Philly, maybe they'll have a chance to get these receivers back and kind of in Lane Johnson and get some of their key players back on offense. But it's a challenge. Look, they've lost 10 of the last 13 games. So when you sit there and say, well, they're one of the best teams in the league, I don't know, being 3-10, that's kind of a stretch if you look at what's happened recently. But they do have a lot of good players, and they have a good team. I'm not saying they're not a good team. I'm just saying they haven't done very well lately. So maybe this bye week's a good time for them to reset. Certainly, they've got to play better defense than what they've been playing. They just gave up way too many points too quickly. They're still turning the ball over too much. And Barkley's an explosive guy, but he can only do so much. We saw that when he was with the Giants, and once you put Smith and Brown out there, along with Goddard and Barkley, you have one offense. You start taking a couple of those guys out of there, and it just becomes a little bit watered down. So I think the bye week comes at a good time for them. Hopefully for them, they can get healthy, reset a little bit, get back to playing good Philadelphia Eagle football, and that means getting off to a good start and playing from ahead. Just trying to play catch up and throw the ball all over the lot, 45 times and all is just not a good formula for any team, but I don't think that's really the way the Eagles want to play or should play.
That's Kellen Moore football, though, historically. That is Kellen Moore, offense coordinator of football. And he won't give the damn ball to Saquon to start the game.
Come on.
Don't give the damn ball. There's mad Eagles fans. Mad Eagles fans about the decisions that are being made. That's going to happen, though, whenever you lose, especially in the fashion that they did. Let's look at this evening, shall we? D-Butch got a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, the game tonight. Not a lot of mad Lions fans right now. You talked about kind of building teams. We talked about the run game with Patrick Ricard in Baltimore, him kind of been the focal point of that. But who's the focal point in Detroit? I know they have a great offensive line, over 40 rushes last week, matching up against the Seattle defense, who once they get you behind the sticks, they can get after you and get ugly with those pressures. But how do you see that game plan, that matchup playing out tonight, the Detroit run game and that Seattle defense?
Well, I think you hit it right there on the head, but the key to me for the Lions is to keep the pressure off of Goff. They need to play from ahead, not go back there and throw the ball, all day. We saw them trying to do that against Tampa, and that, didn't go well. Their offensive line is very good. They have, good set of running backs. They're explosive, but they really need to just stay ahead on the chains, stay out of long yardage situations, and let Goff be I think an excellent first and second down quarterback. Not a little bit more, not quite as good on third down in the red area in some of those clutch situations. So use the whole team. Don't just throw it all on his shoulders, and obviously keep the score down on defense. Not let the game get away from you there, which they've done a pretty good job of doing. But I would say on the Seattle side of it, the real question is the offensive line. Can they block the Detroit front? Can they block Hutchinson and the rest of that front? I think that's a big challenge for him. Geno's done a great job of, I would say, maximizing his opportunities and avoiding some of the rush and all that. But I think that's still going to be a big challenge for the Seahawks, is whether they can block the front consistently. They've had trouble doing that, but Geno's bailed them out with some scrambles and some extended plays, and he's probably going to have to keep doing that for a while.
Love watching Geno play football the way he's playing, especially with his entire story of getting to this point. This is a massive one on ABC. Let's go to the one on ESPN, Titans-Dolphins. Snoop Huntley is going to be starting for the Miami Dolphins. He's from Miami. Okay, we got Tyreek Hill. We got a team that is I think there's some stats coming out about really never having the lead. This Dolphins team is vastly different than what last year was. And then the Tennessee Titans are their own story with Will Levis at the helm. There's been some wonder. This guy's maybe even on the trade block, DeAndre Hopkins. How do you see this game going on ESPN, Coach?
Well, I think it's a big game for both teams. It's been a tough start for both of them, and somebody's going to be feeling better about it after tonight, and somebody else is going to be feeling like we're really looking down the barrel here. So I think it's a big game for both teams, and obviously Tennessee's a young program. I mean, the quarterback's got to stop making mistakes and turning the ball over and putting the team at risk. If they can do that, then they probably have enough to be competitive in most games, but they've just had too many, bad decisions and bad plays that have cost them already in this season, and they've got to put a stop to that. Miami's, obviously undergoing some changes, and hasn't been able to be anywhere near as productive as what they were offensively. And I think this, speaks to the Kansas City example, where you take away a guy or two, and it's still a pretty competitive team. You look at Miami or maybe the Eagles losing a couple of their guys at the top, and it really has much more of an adverse effect. So teams like San Francisco and Kansas City that maybe have a little bit more depth and balance, hopefully for those teams they can survive some of the rough spots in the schedule, and then get everybody back when they need them most at the end of the year, and be the best team they can be. I'd say it's maybe some of these other teams that don't have as much depth could run into some rough spots, and their schedule or their record reflect that, and then they're looking up a hill.
Yeah, from your answer there about Titans Dolphins, feels like you think both teams are going to lose somehow. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see how that works. Whoever wins this one's going to feel a little bit better tomorrow. Is what he said about how things are going. That's just reality of the matter. That is just the reality of the current situation. Reality.
Yeah, but you can't go on a winning streak until you win the first one. So you get one, and maybe you get another one, and before you know it, you're 3-3 or 4-2 or whatever it is, and you can win 2 or 3 games in this league's not unheard of. But you got to get that first one, and then you got to string another one together, and then you maybe get a break, and before you know it, things can change in a hurry, especially this early in the season. So there's a long way to go, but for some of these teams, the clock's ticking. Jacksonville's another one. They play the Colts this week, another division game, right? So
hot Colts. Colts are hot right now. Colts are hot right now. I don't know if you know.
And that was their best defensive effort of the year. So maybe things are starting to straighten out there a little bit. But that's it's a big game for Jacksonville. I mean, again, you just can't fall too far behind too early, or you end up having to go 10-1 or whatever, 9-2 in the last 11 games or that type of thing, and it's hard. To me, you really want to try to be. You really want to get to 5-3 at the halfway point. Okay. If you're at 5-3, then you got a chance to win 10 games. Okay. 5 of the last 9. So right, my math right there.
Yep. Good math.
Yeah.
Yep.
So so you're okay there. I'd say when you get to 3-5, then now you got to win 7 out of 9 or that type of thing. And there's not much room for error. So it's just if you can get to a little bit over 500 at the halfway point, then you're going to be in it the rest of the way, whether you make it or not. That, of course, some teams do, some don't. It comes down to tiebreakers and stuff like that, but you're in it to the end. When you have a losing record halfway through the season, you just got a lot of ground to make up, and it's not just you winning. It's now you got to start counting on other teams losing.
Yeah, anytime you start wishing upon stars for other teams to have bad days consecutively, that's when you know you're in deep shit. Let's talk about a situation that I think a lot of people are going to want to hear your take on before we let you go, and we can't thank you enough. I know you're very busy. The New England Patriots right now. Coach Mayo has come out and said, we have a plan. Jacoby Brissett is our starter. He is our starter going forward. You got a lot of Patriots fans calling for Drake May to get in there because of how the season's going. Then you have some Patriots fans saying, behind that offensive line, that's what we want Drake May to do. Have you been paying attention to it all? How do you feel like Coach Mayo is handling it? What do you think is the conversation that should be had about having a plan for a rookie quarterback and either sticking to it or kind of veering off whenever things aren't going as maybe everybody outside the building thought it should go?
Right. Well, Pat, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea what the plan is, so I don't know. I can't comment on that. If Mayo says he's got a plan, then I guess he's got one, and we'll have to wait to see what it is. I don't know, but I'd say there's a number of issues there. One is can't move the ball and can't score. Got a touchdown off the field goal on 63-yard field goal, whatever it was. Or field goal, and then got a touchdown off the fumbled kickoff, but otherwise had a hard time moving the ball. And I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but the amount of time that Purdy had to throw was pretty high. I got to think that in terms of the amount of time before the ball was released, had to be the highest in the league or close to it. So I think there are some pass rush issues there. There are some scoring issues, and the Joey Sly is a great addition for him. They got a good kicker. That's a big upgrade from where we were last year. But I'd say there's some other things that have to be worked out, and obviously they got the protection straightened out. That cost them the game against Seattle on the block field goal. But we'll see. We'll see what the plan is. I have no idea what it is.
I thought they told you on the way out, maybe.
Yeah.
I thought they told you a plan, gave you a memo. I thought you were still on an email list, something like that. It's obviously
no. That email got cut off the next day, so an email list.
How about your fob? Couldn't get in the building. We see that on Hard Knocks. People get cut. Your fob doesn't work anymore. Hey, you did a lot of amazing things. We're lucky that happened because you get to join us every week, and we get to see you on your own podcast, Coach, on Inside the NFL on Friday nights. You're crushing it. We appreciate you.
Yeah, you can see me on InstaFace too.
Oh, I forgot. Social media gone out there, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Belichick. Thank you, Coach.
Pat, I'll tell you, it was rough. I was just scrolling through that. I have no idea what I'm doing. I scroll through that, and I end up in a chat room, and I couldn't get out.
Which one?
I don't know.
Get you, Bill.
Yes.
So some guy named Kobe texted me. I asked him, how do I get out of the chat room? Kobe texted me, sent me the 4 things to get out. And so I escaped. I don't know how I got trapped in there. I got in, but I couldn't get out.
Make sure you don't go live.
Hey, keep doing that.
Watch out. Don't go live.
Yeah,
man.
go live
Don't
on
go live.
Instagram. Let the world know. You're doing great. We appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Belichick.